Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel after a very long pause. Oh boy, a lot has happened since my last upload. And yeah, well, I no longer have my Mark IV Mondeo. The past year was very difficult for it. I probably put more money into it than the car was actually worth. Just to name a few things, front and rear brake discs and pads, complete clutch kits along with dual mass flywheel, vacuum pump, bushings, and also I believe it was mid-November. I was going home. It was after 10. It was already dark, and a deer popped out of nowhere, and of course I hit it. But thankfully the damage wasn't that bad, so it was sort of easy fix. And yeah, as I said, that's just to name a few things. But that one thing that happened right before Christmas made me thinking it's probably time to let go. Because also, I know that the turbo was getting a bit noisy. This steering rack probably needed to be reconditioned anytime soon. And putting all these things together, I decided to let it go. But so, what happened before Christmas? Well, it was something very weird and bizarre. I have no clue what caused it, and the guys who serviced the car were also scratching their heads, so... But anyways, I'll play a video. Let's see if you can spot the problem. So, did you see it? Well, here's a picture. This hole is obviously not supposed to be there. That happened on my way to work. It was a normal morning just a few days ago. I arrived from my trip to Japan. Beautiful country, by the way. Everything started out just fine. In the morning, started the car. It was a bit snowy, cleaned all the snow, cleaned the windows, and started to drive. The trip to work is around 3 kilometers, and right before I enter the territory, I have to make a left turn. So, of course, I slow down, and right after I make the left turn, I notice a sound coming from somewhere in the front. To describe it, imagine a blower motor, and you will be sticking a piece of paper in the blades. It will have that flapping noise, and so that was my first thought. Has to be the blower motor. So I turn it off, and nothing happened. The sound was still there. And I have around 40 meters after the left turn to where I usually park my car. And I was slowly driving forwards, still listening to the sound. It wasn't loud at first. Then I thought, did the serpentine belt snap? But there are no warning lights. So I parked my car, opened the door, opened the hood, and right as I opened it, the sound got louder, and I immediately noticed that it's coming from inside the engine, and my first thought was just, crap, I have to turn the engine off. So as I was getting into the car to turn the key off, right before I managed to turn it off, there were 2 very loud bangs. And at that point, I just thought, this was probably my last trip with this car. And so I call my mechanic, and he comes and picks the car up with the trailer. Half an hour later, he calls me and asks whether it will be okay for him to try to start the car so he can hear the sound by himself. And I go, yeah, sure, go ahead. Half an hour later, no, it wasn't half, it was more than 2 hours later, I call him, hey, what's the deal? Why are you calling me back? He goes, well, the car is sitting outside, running completely normal. They also took for a small test drive around the territory, and the car was just fine. And at that point I thought, am I going crazy? There's no way that I imagined that. I mean, that sound, the last 2 bangs were so loud, I seriously thought, man, the engine just died. It destroyed itself. And then he said that, don't worry, we're not done yet. We'll also take a look at it from the bottom once the lift frees up. And then around 2 hours later, he calls me and says, well, there is a hole in the engine. But the funny thing is that the bits of metal from that hole are inside the oil pan. How? Why? He had no clue. And then after the Christmas holidays, they pretty much completely disassembled the engine, and there was nothing wrong with it, aside from the hole, of course. Cylinders, valves, pistons, everything. Aside from the hole, the engine was in a pretty good shape. And so I asked him what could have caused this. This was his reaction. He could only guess, and his only guess was that something was probably dropped in the engine through the oil filler. But then again, why are the bits of metal inside the oil pan? Because I also checked where the car was standing in the parking spot. There were no bits of metal on the ground. Because when something inside the engine wants to get out, usually there will be bits of metal outside, not inside the engine. Yeah, well, he said that during his 20 years plus of owning that shop, he has never seen anything like it. And so, they patched a hole, assembled the engine. It was running just fine. And around a week later, I made the difficult decision to let go. Oh well. There's a saying that a car owner is happy 2 times during his ownership. First, when he buys the car, and the second is when he sells the car. In my case, I wasn't really happy when I sold it. Oh well. Anyways, thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye.